More than 50 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes across Gaza overnight, including one that hit a school sheltering displaced Palestinians. It's the latest in an expanded assault by the Israeli military aimed at defeating Hamas. The IDF said the school compound was housing terrorists. Rescuers say 33 people were killed in the strike, many of them women and children.
يعني نايمين بفراشنا وخيمتنا البسيطة هذه صار انقصفت المدرسة علينا، مدرسة فقط تأوي النازحين، مدنيين، أطفال، كبار سن، نساء، رجال، يعني بس تعبانين لقمة الأكل والشرب. فجأة هيك لقينا الركام فوق روسنا، هذا ابني يطلع من تحت الركام، أنا أطلع من تحت الركام، زوجي صار مصاب، ولاد زوجي، ولادنا.
On Sunday, Arab and European nations gathered to discuss what they can do to help bring an end to this conflict. Spain called for an arms embargo on Israel and an increase in humanitarian aid into Gaza. Meanwhile, the head of a controversial U.S. and Israeli-backed aid distribution program for Gaza has resigned. Jake Wood quit as executive director of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. He said it was impossible for him to do his job while staying in line with what he called principles of neutrality and independence. The GHF had vowed to distribute about 300 million meals in its first 90 days of operation, starting today. The United Nations and international aid agencies have said they will not cooperate with this group, which they accuse of working only with Israel and lacking Palestinian involvement. And more, Trent Murray joins us live from Tel Aviv. Trent, 8 groups, as we just heard, distancing themselves from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Switzerland considering launching a probe into this organization. Now, it's newly formed. What we do know about it is that it's backed by the US. It's also backed by Israel. What more do we know about the GHF?
Well, Wei-Su, we've been tracking now for several months this GHF as they've been preparing to launch their operations in Gaza, but they are an unusual organisation and there is quite a lot of ambiguity around their background. It really does feel like that is deliberate. What we know is they were first incorporated and set up back in February. There are real questions around where their funding is coming from, but already confusion about their origins because they were set up in Switzerland, but also in the US. Now they've backed away from the Swiss registration, saying that they are indeed an American organisation. But the New York Times is reporting that there is several links now between senior Israeli business people who have in fact been doing reserve service here in the IDF and the US management of this group. So there are questions around whether there is crossover here between civilian operations and military operations within Israel. Certainly we know there had been a lot of fanfare around the GHF taking over aid operations in Gaza. This was about them trying to do it in a way that wrestled control away from Hamas. We do know Hamas is in control of the delivery of aid within much of the Strip. It does maintain a pretty strong military presence, even with international NGOs. But it seems on day one of their operations, we've already hit a snag, as we heard, their CEO resigning dramatically, saying that he has questions around the impartiality of all of this. We know, as you say, the UN and other groups there are really sceptical about whether this new organisation can fill the gap. There is a huge need on the ground, around 500,000 people in need of food immediately. The UN has been saying that this new organisation just doesn't have the resources and know how to do it. They've been saying that they do, and there was a lot of optimism, certainly on the Israeli side, that they'd be able to get on the ground and help. But I think the events of the past 24 hours have shown just how difficult delivering and managing aid is within the Gaza Strip, and just why the UN has been such a crucial piece in this puzzle for so long.
Trent, Jerusalem Day, it's an Israeli national holiday between Sunday, that's 20th May, to Monday, 26th May. Israel is marking its second Jerusalem Day under the shadow of war. This is expected to be a sensitive holiday. What's the security situation like on the ground?
Yeah, very complicated, a huge security presence across Jerusalem, particularly in the Old City. Jerusalem Day marks, from the Israelis' perspective, the reunification of Jerusalem when they captured East Jerusalem and the West Bank during the Six-Day Arab-Israeli War back in 1967. But, of course, we know for much of the international community and certainly the Palestinians, it's viewed as an annexing. And what you see on the ground is large numbers of Israeli Orthodox Jewish people waving flags and marching through the old quarters of the city that they wouldn't normally spend too much time in, particularly the Muslim quarter and the Christian and Armenian quarter. We are already seeing some pretty ugly scenes on the ground there, including of some teenagers waving Israeli flags saying death to Arabs. We also know, in a highly provocative move, one of the far-right ministers here, Ben Gvir, alongside some Jewish worshippers, have gone to the Al-Aqsa mosque compound. That is, of course, one of the holiest sites in Islam, under Israeli security. So, look, always a politically charged and complicated picture up in Jerusalem, particularly around Jerusalem Day. But this happening under the guise of the war and against that backdrop has added even more intensity to it. And I think that's why you're seeing a much larger security presence on the ground.
Thank you for that. It's Trent Murray there reporting live for us from Tel Aviv.